I'm ready.
You ready to roll?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so again, just to recount, we only had our invocation, and now we have the minutes from our prior meeting. I don't know if everyone has had an opportunity to review them, but if you have, I will, entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the prior meeting.
Motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. The ayes have it. Okay. So the next thing we have is financial update, and that's Mr. Malenbeck.
Good afternoon. I will go over the financials for funds 173 and 157. And what you have before you on the screen is the financials for 173. Net obligations remain unchanged from previous meeting at $161 million. Revenues plus interest at 163. We had approximately $1.2 million that came in during the month. And expenses life to date at $129.8 million. Encumbrances of $4.6 million. And I will note, we did circulate the general ledgers, and you will note a slight difference in the numbers. The ledger went through the end of January, but this report actually did pull some numbers from the beginning of February. So there's a difference of about $560,000 between the ledger report versus the numbers here. Also, there is, as we continue to talk about reconciliation, with the encumbrances, you would be looking at approximately $5.5 million instead of the 4.5. There are a couple encumbrances that are going through the audit process now. They were showing up as a negative as they were changing the numbers. So you would likely see an updated number that's almost $1 million more than the encumbrance that you see in this report. Also, there were discussions previously about encumbrances on some of the projects for road resurfacing. I did go through that research and did see that for Dickinson Bowen, their contract was encumbered for about $10.6 million. And out of that, I think there was about $3.something million still left to be spent. Commissioner Perry.
You're leaving off a $5 million change order encumbrance on Dickinson and Bowen that was done a year ago. So there's another $5 million encumbrance. You're leaving off the $13 million that we entered into a contract in December for ag camp for B and C. So there's $20 million more encumbrances than what this is showing. How can we possibly know what we're operating with if we can't get an accounting that shows what is encumbered, what we've committed to?
Right. So
I mean,
I appreciate your passion in this, right? And as we've talked about it, we do have our consultants that are working with the teams, going through reconciliations, right? Working both with Public Works and also working through finance to make sure all this information is captured, right? So this is work that's ongoing, and also, just like, as I mentioned to you a while ago, one request will be copies of some of the minutes they would like to obtain. But this is, still ongoing work. Right?
Mr. Malenbeck,
Yes.
first off, let me apologize for the last year and a half misspelling your name in the minutes. I cleaned that up this time.
Right.
It does not take reconciliation, and it does not take consultants to take a contract that they signed in December and Public Works signed to enter it into the system. It does not take a consultant. It does not take reconciliation. That's $13 million with 2 contracts. Why does it take 3 months after we spent 2 months talking about encumbrances to know that that needs to be put in there? It does not take a consultant to know that we did a $5 million change order last April, May, June sometime, and we still don't have it in there. That does not take reconciliation. I know you said best practices would say you would do that the day you enter the contract. Obviously, we don't have best practices. My frustration is there's no telling how much money we have to spend today. The mayor, last meeting, spent a lot of time talking about what do we have available to spend.
Right. Well,
Well, you can't tell if you don't have a financial statement. I just assume not see the word encumbrance back on the report until it gets right.
right. So again, you're getting thrown off by the word encumbrance. In terms of knowing how much we can spend, right, we can do the calculations and be able to tell.
Hold on.
However, we'll have to do the cleanup, right, to free up. Part of the reconciliation that's happening is to determine, the overruns and underruns. Then this body would do the work to deobligate, to find out exactly how much we would have. But if you're looking at purely what has been encumbered, what has been expended, you can pull the numbers from there. In fact, from that, right, you look at revenues minus obligations. That's about $2.something million, right? That's available if we're going by those numbers, right? But then if you are going to look at expenses plus encumbrances so far, you're looking at probably, $30 million that still needs to be spent. But in terms of what's left to be obligated from expenses minus obligations, that's about 2.1.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
That's the same lesson I gave last month. But until we do that deobligation, by the way, I can tell you how much we got because my accounting system has that. Myself, wait, excuse me, Mayor.
Well, no, I'm leaving this,
Okay.
right? So what I'm gonna ask.
Well, wait.
right? No, hold on, no.
I'm
What I'm
not
gonna
through.
ask, I know you got a question.
No, I wasn't through speaking yet.
I know you weren't. One, I didn't recognize you to begin with, but I've been okay. The only thing I'm asking, these questions are fine, right? I'm not having a problem with the back and forth. I just want to make sure that we keep a tone that is respectful of everybody and their effort in trying to get to a solution. So that's all I'm going to ask, but you can continue with your question.
It's very frustrating to come in here and spend December and January talking about a simple term of encumbrances. And in January, was told that we would be given a report within 2 or 3 days of how he calculated the $6 million that's in encumbrances last month. You were gonna give me the breakdown that shows what that, I never got that. You were also gonna give me the 420 account, I never got that. I got it for January, but I didn't get followed last year. So when I go a month to month to month, and the next time something comes up is when we get back in this room, it is very frustrating. Because unlike you and you and you, the rest of us ain't getting paid to be in here. So when I come in here and we talk about encumbrances, no, clearly we have $2.1 million. I could do that math real easy. I can tell you though, that what you ought to be able to do, if we had best practices or a reasonable correct accounting system, you could add encumbrances to life-to-date expenses and then not have to go through and figure out what's not been deobligated. You know what's there. But right now, we don't have that because I know there's $20 million not showing up on the encumbrances.
So
That I can identify without looking at your computer
I
screen.
want Fidelis to be able to respond to that. But I will say this, right? As we're talking about the respectful tone and people trying to do this. Another comparison we can make, unlike you, we have jobs, right? Unlike you, we have more than this issue to deal with. Unlike you, the finances of the city aren't just privy to this matter and this particular committee. So, Mr. Fidelis, if you could speak to the question that he just asked.
Yeah, and one, as we talk about consultants, right? What we are getting the support in public works. This is public works projects, and the consultants are really helping identify projects that need to be closed out, have been closed out, ensure that there are no outstanding invoices out there. But that's the work that they're doing. Now, and we actually had a meeting earlier today. They have been meeting every week. The plan was to actually come into this meeting and be able to report out all the projects in Fund 157. That has not been completed. We think they'll be done by next week. That's the work that the consultants are doing, right? So if we're trying to get clean information That's the work that's underway.
That's the work, the last meeting you told us we'd have in 2 weeks on 157, so now we're gonna have it for 6 weeks. Thank you. But that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about when do you record a contract into the system? Do you wait a year like we did for the $10 million? Do we wait 8 to 9 months like we're doing for the $5 million? What does it take? It does not take a consultant. It does not take all these other, it takes going into the system and putting ad count, $11 million or $5 million or whatever for contract 1B and 1C. And that was done in December. And we talked about that in January. And we're a month later and it's still not showing up on that. My frustration is, I don't know how, actually I do have the numbers, but I don't know how this body is supposed to know what we can spend and what we can't. Because that report,
Let me ask you this.
that report is not given to us.
Because my question ultimately is this, and I'm not disagreeing with the want for better numbers. You know, my perception may be that there may be a little more work that the Public Works Department has to do to reach the level of comfort that Mr. Mallenbecker would like from his team. But if we know the numbers, and that's what we're trying to get to, then is this performative, right? Are we, you know, showing this frustration because we're trying to perform right now, or are we trying to get understanding? What I want.
I don't perform, sir.
Okay, well, what I want to do is get understanding, right? I don't, you know, argue for the sake of argument, I argue for the sake of progress, right? And so I have never disagreed with any, you know, statement or recommendation as to how the numbers can be expressed that would be good accounting and good information for us. I think that's a valid point to be made, right? But if he's saying that he needs to do more time on that, then I know that I don't do the accounting on that. I know that I don't know everything that means with the Public Works Department. I know that that's not exclusively within his division. I know that he has to work along Public Works in order to get a proper understanding of where the numbers are, right? But if we're talking about work, right, and if we're talking about not having a 3-hour long meeting, right, then what we need to understand is what we have to deal with, what the money is that we have to work with. I'm just trying to save time and understand
We
where
would
we
have
are.
a 3-hour meeting, sir, if what we talked about in December, that we're going to be resolved in January, we're going to be resolved in a couple of weeks, and in January is going to be giving us the information within 2 or 3 days that we still don't have. We wouldn't have these discussions if we left that January meeting and you said you would give us breaking down how you had that $6 million, so I'd know what's in there and what's not, would be worthwhile. You said that'd be easy to do. I said, but I don't have access to your computer.
So this is what I want to do, and then I want to open up the floor to any other additional questions on the finances. You were about to.
Yeah. So I don't want to be lost, right? When this comes out about we do not know what the commission has to work with. It has been said, if we're working off of obligations and expenses, it's right there. All this other stuff, you know, the accounting, work. You know, what the interest is. This body should be looking at what do we obligate and, you know, how much do we have in revenues, right? It's right there. And so, you know, and we provide the ledgers now in terms of some of the breakdowns. Those reports, there are further questions that can be asked, and you know we can always supply additional information. Commissioner Perry is always interested in some of the details. Right? All that can be provided. But I just want to be clear. I do not want us to be confused in understanding, knowing what is available, right? The difference between your revenues minus, you know, obligations.
That's not all. That's not all there's supposed. We asked for accounting on 420, which a year ago you used to give us, and for the last year we had got you sent out the January report, but not all of 2024.
Yeah.
I don't know what goes in and out of 420. You said it didn't pertain to 1%, but if our money is going through there, it's something we need to know. And all I asked for was to be given that.
Right.
And we hadn't gotten that.
And this is part of the work that we've been doing, the reconciliation. So when you get the report, we want to make sure this body gets a clean information, right?
I don't want it, I don't want
Okay.
420 after reconciliation, I want it as it went through all the way along.
Well,
All right. We're gonna move on.
The statute requires that to be given to us monthly.
Well, not 420.
Any
Not-
funds,
not-
any funds that deal with our money, yes, it does.
So let me say this.
All of it
One,
is
I
for
said,
cities.
hold on, I got you. I said we're gonna be respectful in this meeting, right? I allow every question, Pete, no matter whether we agree or disagree. I always acknowledge every question that comes to this table, right? So we're gonna be respectful. We're not gonna yell at adults, right? We're not gonna yell at adults, right? We're just not gonna do that, right? We're gonna have respect for each other. That doesn't mean that you don't have a valid question. That doesn't mean that you don't have a valid point. But you're not gonna yell at this man. I'm not gonna sit here as conducting this meeting and allow you to yell at him. I'm not gonna do it, Pete. It ain't gonna happen, right? And far too many times it happens.
Then don't yell at me right now.
Far too many times it happens, and I allow that to take place, right?
Okay, but if
So
you
we're
don't-
gonna be respectful of each other.
Okay, but you don't yell back.
Okay.
If you're,
It doesn't feel good, does it?
if you're gonna give me the lecture, don't.
It doesn't feel good.
No,
does
I'm just pointing out the.
It doesn't feel good,
I
does
didn't
it?
mind it at all, I'm
Okay.
just pointing out the hypocrisy.
So we're gonna move forward. Any further questions on financial?
I have one second question.
Yes, sir.
This bottom line that says 1,630,000 needs to be reconciled to 157.
Right.
Evidently, that's identified what it's been, because it's been there for a year and a half. Do we know what that 1,600,000 deals with?
Yes, and again, once they complete the reconciliation, we'll provide the report.
Let me ask you
Once
this.
that's-
Can I have a follow? Is that one particular project, or is that a combination of projects that the 1.6 is?
Most of it was tied to Riverside, which on the call today, right, it was confirmed that will be closed out, right? So that will be cleaned up after they close out that project in the system.
Now, thank
Mr.
you.
Perry.
You asked the question I wanted to ask. Did it apply to one? If it did, don't tell me, we'll get it later. Go ahead and tell me it deals with Riverside. I mean, that's all I was asking. Thank you for asking, because it got the answer that I was asking for.
Well, I think it was my disposition and how I asked him
Well,
that got us there.
maybe so, but I asked him what, if he knew what it was, and he said, yeah, we'll get it after reconciliation. He didn't need to.
No, I actually say.
Okay, we're good. Any
So can
other
I
questions?
ask a quick question?
Yes.
How much is the FY25 bond payment?
Do you not like us? No one has ever said that far.
Jeff did take his shower this morning.
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah.
There weren't any chairs over this way.
So is the FY25 bond payment for the other fund?
Yes,
The
well,
the 150?
We pay it out of 173. There's $4 million a year that comes out of 173.
Okay, so how much of that affects, if we are just going on revenues versus obligations and there's 2.1, how much does FY25 hit against that 2.1?
so it's actually already included, that particular,
Oh,
right,
So it's
it's
part of the
included
obligations.
obligation, right, yeah.
great.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
so, Mr. Brown, back up, when will the reconciliation, when can we know it will be done?
So for 157, by next week they'll be done, okay? We'd hope to be done by this week, that had a few
Gotcha.
complications. They'll be done by next week. And what we can do is send out the reports, right, once it's done, ahead of the meeting. And then the next work that will begin will be 173.
Okay.
There's a request from Commissioner Perry to share copies of the minutes, and we have folks that are dedicated to run copies, right, and then they'll begin that part of reconciliation. Yeah.
This is my second question, is based on what you said a minute ago, in this fund, there's roughly $2 million available.
Right, the difference between the revenues and obligation, correct. Yeah.
And you made another comment about if you take life-to-date expenses and conferences, there was another, but I guess that's what you're trying to reconcile.
What has not been extended?
And
Yeah.
here is, kind of the nuance of decisions that we make, right? First of all, we may agree that we want to look at a project or do engineering on it, but we don't typically obligate funds until we get cost estimates back, right? So it doesn't necessarily, if something costs $6 million, for instance, right? It doesn't necessarily stop us from going to get the engineering of it, because we understand the rate in which our money is coming in, right?
Sure.
So we can still make decisions,
Yeah.
right? But I get the benefit of understanding encumbrances, but decisions can still be made. And I think sometimes historically, we may have delayed because we were waiting on one thing
Yeah.
and we don't necessarily
Right.
have to do
And
that.
that, like I said last time, like my big thing is I'm never gonna understand what you do. I don't want to. I'm glad you do it, you know? And so for me, it's just the ability to know what we're working with, what we're gonna have, and how do we make decisions based upon that. And that is all
Yeah.
at the end of the day I care about, right? Because I don't have the time to learn, understand, or do reconciliations. I just for the much clarity as we can have, you know, as quickly as we can have, to just know truly what we're working with is what I'm looking for.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
and I think for projection's sake, right, our revenues have been roughly 1.2 to 1.4 million dollars a month,
Mhm.
right? So if you're trying to estimate, you know, what's to come in, and we've already accounted for the bond payment for FY25. So every revenue that comes in monthly, right, would go towards.
Does it go to this fund?
Yes.
Does it go to both funds?
It
It
goes
just
to
goes
that
to this
fund,
fund.
right. For the other fund, we are pretty much done. I think, you know, all the projects in Fund 157 are, you know, just awaiting all the closeouts.
And that's the bond, right?
Right, that's a bond fund.
Got it.
And so that's the initial work that our consultant is working with Public Works and Finance on. So, you know, we think by next week, they should have all that wrapped up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once we close out all of those projects, will this no longer become something that's in our report? Or how was the best, what would be preferred by the body?
We're talking about bond money.
The bond.
We actually, in my opinion, have roughly $2 million in the bond money to spend, other than what's in reserve to pay the last payment. So if we get, say, the Woodrow Wilson one, the project you like so much talking about, that we originally put $2 million in for, and then we took it back out of the bond money to make it available again. When we get to Woodrow Wilson one, it's probably gonna cost us $3 million. I'm rounding off numbers. The logical thing to me would be that we spend all the remaining bond money that's available, other than what's gotta be held in reserve. And once that's all paid, pay the rest of whatever the cost is there out of 173. And then you wouldn't have any more reporting on the bond fund.
Yeah, well, I agree with spending the bond funds, you know, making sure that we deplete the bond fund.
Yeah, deplete all out, we gotta keep 3.9 million or something like that in reserve.
That's correct.
Okay.
To pay, you gotta keep the last payment in reserve till it gets there.
Mhm.
And so it'll make a little interest going along or whatever,
Right.
but you gotta keep it there.
My question to follow up on your statement, if there is roughly 2 million or so in there, what is our runway that's left that we have to obligate that amount of money?
We've got plenty of time.
I'd like to know.
Well,
It could be 6 years, but I'd like to
no,
know it's 6 years.
there's not a limit on it other than reasonableness. And so, it's 6 years, the bond's all paid off in 6 years. You know, that 80% rule was what you had to have committed under contract.
Okay.
We've met it. When I talked to Phil about how to properly spend the rest of it, it had to be on a project that fits the thing, and so most any street project we do it. It makes more sense to me to put it all into one project, so we don't have to run 2 or 3 projects through that account. If it's a roughly 2 million, but we don't know what it is. If we got a $3 million Woodrow Wilson project that's gonna go more than the 2 million that's in there, the motion would be, as I understand it, that we approve $3 million for Woodrow Wilson, making up numbers here, to first expend all the funds available in 157 and then pay the rest out of 173. So that you would pay the first bills. We don't want to do it with necessarily an MPO or something where you got matching reimbursement and all that. You need a nice clean project that doesn't have that to it. So you can just pay it, clean it out, wipe it out. Then the only report you'd have is, we got $3.9 million, make it a little interest until the final payment comes in.
Okay.
And then you spend, you can deal with that when that final payment comes around. You just gotta keep it in reserve. That's, Mayor, that's based on my, this much knowledge of bonds, but talking to people that know this much about it.
Well, I want to make certain that, you know, as quickly as we can, we obligate all of the funds that came out of the, you know, the bond.
Once the reconciliation is done on the bond, that we agree with how much is left in that account, left over from other projects, we'll know
Yeah.
what that is, and that's the other reason I said Woodrow Wilson, the timing seems to fit. But Michael Baker's gonna have that ready, goes out to bid, it was kind of fit right in the,
Okay.
that's just a recommendation.
You were about to say something else?
No, that was exactly it.
Last question.
Yeah, and that's why we just wanted to make sure the projects are reconciled so the body knows, right, what's available to de-obligate and then obligate for new projects.
Just taking into face value, parking the bond fund over here, we should have somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 million coming in the rest of the year.
Roughly,
Use that
right.
number, right?
Yes.
Plus the 2 million, so we have 18 million in
How
funds
much,
that'll come this
how
year.
much of that 16 million paid is for
Anticipate,
debt
correct,
service?
yes.
So about
Yes,
4
sir.
point, round it off to 4
Mayor,
point.
ask that question
It's already in
again.
the obligation.
So
Right.
a portion has to go
No.
towards
I
debt
think he's already,
service.
he's already.
It's
counted
already
that.
in there.
So there's 16 on top of what we pay for debt service?
No, I think your question was annually, right? So
Like if I'm taking the 11 months, including this month.
Right.
Because this number applies to January, that's in front of us, you should have 16 million revenue. If,
It's about 14, really,
Yeah.
because you got 2 months already in there.
I think this is just January, does this include February's tax revenue?
yeah, so one is we have to go by the fiscal year, right? So
Fair
really,
enough. I got you.
October 1
I got you.
is the
Okay.
city's.
Okay.
So October to September,
Okay,
right?
I'm with you, I got you on
Yeah.
that. But regardless, we're still 1.4, 1.5 million in cash coming in. This includes the bond payment for 25.
The obligation, right?
Sorry.
That number includes. And so what I
So
try
it
to
doesn't
do,
count against that.
yeah, because that payment is due in September. So what I try to do is when we
At
start
the end,
new
at the
fiscal-
end of the fiscal year.
Right, is when it's due.
Got it.
But what I try to do is I book it right away when we begin the new fiscal
That
year,
tracks,
so
yeah.
that we know,
Of course,
yeah.
okay, all right.
The 16 million is really kind of, 15 and a half, 16 is what the year runs out, you already got 1 or 2 months of that. It's not.
I'm with you, yeah, I'm just, yeah,
It's more
just,
like 14 million dollars.
just from an anticipated
Yeah, you're
standpoint
right.
of what we're
I
trying to
don't-
do and how we're making plans.
I don't know that we're gonna be making decisions right up to the edge like that.
No, I don't either, but I just, it's good to know what, you know,
Yeah.
because if we're sitting here and all we think is we have $2 million, like, that's not accurate. Like, you know, you're making decisions based on things that are coming down the road.
Absolutely. Nathan, anything
No,
else?
sir. Thank you.
Okay. So if nothing further on the financial update, Lewis, project update.
So I will cover for the every month while he's out of the country. The resurfacing program update. The 1A Dickerson Bowen, the contractor, and the administrative forensic consultant. So far, they have 65% completed. The completion, the expected completion is March 31st. However, there is no way they probably can do that. And I think Chad told us that they have requested extension, but we will discuss it first before we issue that, extension for it. The 1B and
Do you know how long of a, I know, I'm,
They
I'll let
asked
you
him
handle
to
that,
June.
but do you know how long of an extension you're requesting?
They asked him to June 30th,
Okay.
so 3 months.
Is consideration being given to the month and a half they took off and didn't work?
We'll take all
I mean, we'll discuss that.
Yeah,
I don't know what the issue is, I don't know what.
Between the middle of July and the end of August, they didn't work. They said they were trying to make a shoe for making the curves, and then they still forming them individually. But we talked about it in the July meeting and the August meeting, that they didn't work during that period of time. It was waiting on the subcontractor to summons that's doing the curve work.
So for me, personally, it's me personally, I think it's best practice that I allow the third party, I hear what you're saying.
I'm just bringing it up to ask it. I'm not asking for a decision,
No,
just me.
that's an important note, but I don't want to indicate how I feel one way or the other.
I'm just asking them to remember that as it comes up to look at it.
Well, we'll discuss it with them and see what the issue is first. If it's
It was bright and sunshiny.
is it
pretty.
warranted or not? I mean, that's part of the discussion with them, see why they asking for extension. The 1B and 1C, We waited on the contract to be signed by the contractor, AECOM, and then once we get that from them, we will execute that, and the notice to proceed will follow. I don't see why we cannot start in March, and I'm shooting for that at least, instead of April 15, will be around March 15 or late March. We'll see how that works, but the contract. Next slide.
Hold on, Mr. Perry has a question.
I want to have a little discussion about the neighborhood streets.
So,
Which, so I'm,
The neighborhood streets, what he was just talking about before we go to the
Okay.
next item.
okay, go ahead.
Watching what was going on in 1A, and admitting that how we came up with the list for 1A and 1B and 1C. We did it, frankly, we took what the neighborhood surveys were, and I went and looked in those neighborhoods, and if they turned in 4 streets, and we said, yeah, this one's bad, and this one's bad, compared to other ones, this one's not as bad, this one is, we put those 3 streets down. We might have put all 4 of them, we might not put any. But I did look at the other streets around there when I was doing it. Watching what's been going on in 1A, it made me realize it probably wasn't the best way to go about doing it. Because we dealt, in my opinion,
Expound upon that.
we dealt solely with what the neighborhoods gave us and moved from there. Watching that, and I could give 2 or 3 fine examples of it where we did Grove Park, we did this one and this one and this one over here and one across and one little short street. There's 3 little short streets we left. Probably would have cost $10,000 to do them. Only a couple of people live on them. They're very short, they're very narrow. But it wouldn't have cost much to do them. But because they weren't on the list, I didn't have them, so we didn't include them.
So let me ask you this, and I'm trying to work off
I'm moving to
the logic by which we executed it that way and what the limitations may have been, right? So the logic for Mr. Forrester, for instance, that you weren't here at the time that we made that decision, we sent out surveys for each neighborhood association to give us kind of their priority streets, and we're thinking, listen, we have to start somewhere, right? And while we can look at condition of roads, we don't know from an actual lived experience what it means to travel in your neighborhood, right? By example, if you're talking about a little short street that somebody lives in a cul-de-sac, right? That probably would not have been a top street because maybe only.
We did pick up cul-de-sacs.
No. I'm saying I'm not really making the point.
Yeah.
The point that I'm making is that someone where there are 3 houses, right?
Yeah.
Versus the rest of the neighborhood where it's a major,
Probably wasn't turned into us.
probably wasn't turned into, and you're
Unless the
saying,
president of the association lived on the short street, then it might have been, but
yeah.
otherwise.
So you're saying that we could have missed an
We-
opportunity
we-
to give a more fulfilling experience to those neighborhoods.
More fulfilling, cheaper for us in the long run, taking care of the city. Some of those streets were in really bad shape, but within 5 they're wearing, and within 4 or 5 years they're going to be being done. But then it's not going to be very economically cost effective to go in there and do them. So, because of that, I went to all the neighborhoods that are in 1B and 1C. We're too far along in 1A to rectify the mistake of the errors that could have been done better. So I went to the neighborhoods in 1B and 1C and looked to see where it is there. Some neighborhoods like Presidential Hills, Binder, Bell Haven Heights, whatever, are too big for this to be really out. But some of them are, particularly in the newer areas of the city, are smaller and it is out. So I was looking at what maybe we did in 2016 with that neighborhood program we did then, 2016, 17, what the county might have done there, what we might have done in some other area because of it, what we're doing right now. And because I'm a nerd, I put it all on maps and color coded it so I can see what it looked like. And when you see it on a map, it's a lot easier to look at than when you driving around street to street. And I would like to make a recommendation, make a change order, a motion for a change order to add certain streets into 1B and into 1C, whereby in most of those neighborhoods, if we did this, if we did it now, we got a good price from the contractor. The prices we got were well below what we thought they were gonna be. So we got good cost monies to deal with. If we do this,
While you're talking, do you have enough copies for
I
everybody?
don't have enough copies for everybody. I've got enough to pass them around. This is 1C, this is 1B. If we want to make copies of them, we can do it.
Sylvia, you can make some copies for us.
You know, I meant to get back copies later. All right, look, let me show you this one right here. There's a couple of them. You're gonna run into a self-feeder. This one right here might not self-feed. Put it on top. But it needs to be color copies. That was my problem, I didn't have a color copy. What I was looking at was saying, there are, there's copies of the streets. What is that, is that 1B at the top?
1B.
All right, there's 1C. What I have here that I can share with people is a list of the streets that we'll be talking about adding, which part of it, what neighborhood association it's in, that was prepared in that map. The idea being that
Mobilization, limited.
mobilization,
Yeah.
you know, 3 more streets here, we won't go back to that neighborhood while any of us are sitting around the table, because, you know, that what would be, in these smaller neighborhoods particularly, what would be left would be the streets that are in very good shape, or it's a big neighborhood. Yeah. Some of these streets, like I say right now, are drivable, but they're wearing, and so, you know, 5 years from now. So I gave this list to Neil Schaefer, Chad Toles, and they were gonna look at it and make an estimate of what the quantities would be under, to add these to. Most of them, let me say this, most of them don't have curb and gutter. The ones that do have curb and gutter, it's not like Bellhaven and Finder where you got Yazoo Clay and 100-year-old infrastructure. They're not bad, so the expensive part of curb and gutter is not so bad there. A lot of them is just a straight overlay, doesn't take mill. Some of them are short, there are a couple of them that are long. The idea being to get out of those neighborhoods and be done.
No, I get,
Now, having the list, let me give you,
let me say this.
Yeah.
Let me say this. I follow, personally, for one, I follow what you're saying. I perceive the logic in it, right? The only thing that I don't have the benefit in this moment of is, you know,
what's it cost?
well, that's one. But, you know, an assessment that we can all kind of take in.
I think when you see these
And make a
maps,
decision.
I think when you see the maps, it makes it easy. What the map is, it basically is,
Is this one copy?
that's a 1C at the top and 1B at the top.
Okay.
The 1B has a 2-page and 1C has 1 page. I can kind of talk you through, I can kind of talk you through what we're doing and where. Go to 1B first,
I'm at 1B.
all right?
You're talking about 1B on, he's
1B
talking
on
about
that sheet.
on this sheet, so
All right. We were doing 2 streets over.
we need more copies.
Yeah, she's, I'll wait for the map.
Did you give her this too?
I did not.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Over in the area just north of Battlefield Park, we were doing 2 streets. Main streets across there, Porter and something else, Winter Street were done in 2016 or by the county since then. So this gets everything on the west end. This is not a good example, but if you go to the Washington edition, and Mayor, I'm sure you know where I'm talking about that is, that's
I know what you're talking about.
west of Dalton, south of JSU, immediately south of JSU, trying to speak to everybody. We had 1 street in there we were gonna do. That was all we were gonna do with this contract this year, was 1 street goes right through the middle. We did 2 of them streets in 2016. This gets all the other little cross streets up and down, so that we would do that. It's one of the bigger neighborhoods in there. Let me tell you one other part of this while we're waiting to get the maps back. After our last meeting, the mayor mentioned something about the bond issue money, which I didn't know anything about bond issue money. At the meeting, he was telling me about it, that of the bond issue, IMS has identified certain streets to be done.
You're talking, so for clarity's sake,
The one,
we're not talking about the bond.
Not our bond.
Not our bond. We're talking about the internet
street
sales
bond.
tax
yeah.
leverage.
Y'all, you can speak to this better than I can. $40 million bond, some of it's going to drainage and some of it's going to streets, the way I understand it. Is that- So he gave me a list of what IMS has identified as streets to be done with the bond issue. I went and put them on my maps, separate color. I found some places where they were gonna do a street we already did, up in Grove Park, Park Avenue, we done the south half of it, they were gonna do the whole thing. So we took, Bad set up a meeting, it was me, Tommy Avant, and Chad. We compared that list to what we have under contract with 1B and 1C. We took off 2 or 3 off ours and said, y'all put them on yours on the bond. We took off 4 or 5 off of theirs and put them on ours. For example, in this area just north of JSU, Deer Park, and well, we were doing Center Street. We were doing Center Street all the way across here. They had Center Street on theirs. We suggested leave Center Street on ours, y'all do the west end of Center Street, but what they done, so they just flipped over to do that. We've added these streets between Center Street and, what's the parkway called, Metro Parkway?
JSU Parkway.
JSU Parkway. We put those, they were gonna do Poindexter over, we said, if we're gonna do all these, let us do Poindexter, because we're doing everything else right. So we did a couple of changes around because of what the bond issue had, and adjusted what was going on back and forth there. Okay,
This is a
So if I,
up there.
one,
yeah.
before I say anything, I want to give opportunity for commissioners to express your thoughts.
I mean, Mayor, I mean, in concept, I think this makes a tremendous amount of sense. You know, why would we not try to do the neighborhoods and the streets in this while we're there? I mean, obviously it pertains to cost. I don't know if y'all been able, it's probably too early to even know what cost.
Yeah, we
it is.
do.
Y'all do know, okay.
We got it.
Well, there we go.
Now,
Newton
they
Moore.
they just say they've had to revise it a couple of times, so cleaning up and trying to put all this on the map, make it show it. If you look at this what you got right now is a 1C streets. That you make it out as a 1B.
So what's purple, what's orange, what's yellow?
All right, if you look at that first one, it says low hope. The purple was either done by the city at some time. For example, Eastover Drive, we did as part of the water line job. The ones going up and north down there, we did those. This county did the one in the middle coming down from Dunsbrook Road. We did that circle over on the top right at the 2016. The orange is what we're doing, already under contract, is contract 1C. So the orange is under contract. Yellow is what I'm suggesting we add.
Okay. So my perspective is like Nathan's. Conceptually, it makes sense, right? You know, I would feel derelict in my duty as a commissioner if I didn't have a little more information of what the actual condition of these are. I know that you've recognized it, right? And I'm grateful for this idea of how we best utilize our money. I guess my question is, how can we all feel comfortable
It's the same,
moving forward?
frankly, sir, it's the same way we did when we did 1A, B, and C. It was a windshield, so.
Well,
Wait. Chad also looked at it too. There were a couple that said, there were a couple of neighborhoods where we're doing some stuff. I said, no, we don't need to go over here because what's over there ain't that bad. So not every neighborhood that we're doing something in did I add streets into. I had the streets in where the streets were bad, or wearing, so move on up to a couple of sheets.
So let me say this. I don't think that this is something that we can't figure out a process that makes us
Let me tell
comfortable.
you what's important about time.
I get you on the timing, and I'm not talking about delaying anything.
Yeah, I know.
I guess my question would be to, our management team, right? Do you have any suggestions?
I've talked to them about it too.
Okay, and I want to hear that,
Yeah.
so that everybody's informed
I
of this process.
think that's a good point.
Yeah.
I failed to mention it.
Yeah,
I've talked through this 2 or 3 times, they mad, and I think we've talked about it too. I don't know that they've gone and looked at all the individual streets. We have looked at, I've also got a big map that shows all this on a big map and how it fits in, where the bond issue money fits in with it too. That's where we spent time looking at it before too. Some of them are a lot more logical. Go to like the 3rd sheet. I don't want to avoid what you're asking me. I want to just give you a perspective of how this looks like. You see that 3rd sheet? That's up in Lake Trace, whatever, there, east of Ridgewood.
Pear Orchard, yeah. That one?
But Pear Orchard's up the far right.
Yeah, but it's the neighborhood off, yeah.
Yeah, we're doing 2 little streets, 3 little streets over there in Pear Orchard.
Because you're just talking about the yellow ones in this, right?
Yeah, but see, the purple's already been done.
Got it.
Either the county's done 3 or 4 there, they did that with Christian or whatever they did sometime. They did Christian. There's a lot of work about the county. We've got the orange. Look at what we had with purple, with the yellow.
Yeah.
It's Libby Lane, 2 little short ones, and one up here at the top. Yeah, if we're gonna get up there, Tracewood, if you look there, maybe this is addressing what your question. Tracewood's not in bad shape. Plantation was done at some point years back. It's getting to the point it might need something. So we still have Plantation, Tracewood, something else over there.
I noticed on the Moss Line one, that would be Pear Orchard Park, which is a gated community, and you excluded that.
Which one?
It's one that isn't highlighted, so
Oh,
where
yeah.
you have Moss
Oh, excuse me.
Line,
Oh, yeah.
that's a
It's
gated
gated
community.
communities are private properties.
I get it. Mhm.
Yeah, are not done, yes, you're right, yeah. Yeah, but the orange on that one is what we're already doing. Yellow, this same color coded all the way. Pretty much this top explains it, but this top is not always 100% right. So what I've written in is not necessarily final, absolute. Pretty close.
So is the contractor gonna throw these in, no charge?
No, he's not gonna do it, no charge. But we're trusting that he's gonna do it at the unit prices of the current contract.
Before, I have additional questions, but I don't want to, I don't want to
I mean,
continue.
my question is, what's the amount based on what we know?
That was
today?
gonna be my question. What
I
dollars are we talking
I was
about?
waiting for that, but let me give you the rest of the math.
Look, there's no way, this is not how I organize.
Thank you.
You have some more sheets right here.
Okay.
So if we were trying to lock in the unit price and the position of the equipment and maximize.
Yeah.
Can you just give us
Yeah.
how you're gonna be looking at the price of this and,
We've got another.
okay, well, I'd like to hear all that. Yeah.
All right. The motion I was gonna make.
Well, I wanna hear some from the contractor, right, because these gonna be the ones that we
It's
gonna.
not the contract, it's the engineer.
The
This number comes from
anticipation-
him. I mean, the number, he gave me, I gave him this list of streets and these maps. And he can tell you how he did it, the same way he did it the first time was.
I wanna know why you being so kind. You usually hold people to the fire, and I wanna hear what they have to say, right? I don't have a problem with you adding on, like y'all's discussion, but I wanna hear.
Can I give you 2 that are a little bit weird? Put them out and then get that.
Okay.
Carriage Hills, which is in the one,
Which page are we at?
this in the middle of that second section.
Second package.
Yeah. Hey, what's the green?
Green.
That's a new color.
Where is it?
It's on
After Carriage Hill.
Claiborne Avenue.
Also a dot of blue. I don't know if
All right, you got a blue. All right, yeah.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
got a blue too.
You're on Carriage Hill.
all right.
that- We're on Cedar Hills.
See, I want Carriage Hill.
There it is, all right.
Just about the fourth, fifth one, that second page. This is correcting an error. If you notice, the top end of that's in purple. The county has done that. Carriage Hills has given us wanting to do Carriage Hill. When we did our list and trying to take out what had already been done, it was a mistake when actually put together, I won't say which one of us made the mistake, but this end of Carriage Hills was left out, and those three little orange side ones were left in. And so Carriage Hills, the neighborhood association F with that big long yellow one and those orange ones. So that's correcting a mistake, because we wouldn't have gone and then just done those little orange ones without looking at it. But the purple was what was done by the county, not the long one to the left. And so that was a correction. All right. So you're talking about the green one.
I saw a blue one, I don't know who saw green.
The green is the
And we may be
next Claiborne
colorblind.
Avenue.
All right, Claiborne Avenue.
I don't recommend it, but there is no option. I spoke to the guy from consulting, from the Southern, and he is familiar with the project because he did the utility on that project. I said, what if I said hypothetically, I'm not committing to anything. What if we use you to finish this project? He said he'll be happy to do it. We're supposed to meet this week or next week on the field, and he's gonna give me an idea of what we can do and how much it's gonna cost.
Okay.
So this is another option that I think is better option. And
So
to
at
move
what
forward,
point-
we can't sit.
At what point can we have something in hand that we can make a decision on?
I can take him, we'll go, I mean, I can set up a meeting with him, we'll go to the field next week, or this, then maybe Friday, and we'll come up with a decision.
Is it possible, and maybe we don't need to do this, maybe we just need to leave our Zoom meeting exclusively.
We got
Yeah.
If you narrowed the lanes, number one, is it acceptable to MPO?
Yes, I already asked him.
Because generally it's whatever you ask for.
You can believe if the MPO approves it, FHWA is okay. with it,
Yeah, yeah.
Because they will tell you no in a heartbeat if something does not meet the standards.
No,
So,
11
yeah,
it meets the standard.
I'm just,
ASHTO
if,
standard.
I don't,
Yeah.
you
I'm
say
an
you
engineer,
talk
so
to the
I-
MPO, then
That's an ASHTO
there,
standard.
there's no engineering reason not to
Yeah.
narrow the lanes. There may be other practical considerations, but.
There's
So-
another also.
When do you think you can have, you said by the end of next week, so that would be by the next meeting, we could.
By
post
next
this
meeting,
time.
we'll find something, yeah,
Okay.
I'll come up with something.
Okay, that's good.
Yes.
But not for the special meeting, for the next.
No, the next regularly
March,
scheduled
the
meeting.
March
Got it.
meeting. The Woodrow Wilson Avenue, this has been, we issued a notice to proceed to update the plans 10 days ago. We were shooting on March 20, on March to get all the PSNE and plan down. But there is an obstacle. We found out the right-of-way for the University Medical Center, the easement that we have, an agreement with, expired. And so I told Terry Williamson, so he contacted the university lawyer, and they working on issue to renew that easement. So I don't anticipate any problems. I think this is going forward, right?
Hold on,
Yeah,
can I ask a date question on this?
yeah.
You expect to advertise for construction on April 15th, which means you're accepting prices in May, which means they're going to the council in June. And
Well,
you,
these dates will shift because he has not given me the update yet. The consulting, he said waiting on the
what's anticipated construction time? Do we know? You have,
April, sometime in April.
well,
late- late April.
days of, like length of construction.
It's 80 days, I think.
Well, I don't know particularly that part
What-
of the stage.
I gotta look at the contract, I don't remember.
Let's,
I'll get to you, I'll get it to you. But the completion date should be sometime in September.
Yes.
Looking at all the reports in the last meeting and the one before, and I do appreciate the fact that y'all are here trying to move things along. All these expected advertising dates, I think we better have some discussion about what, when, and where, because we don't have the money to pay for a third of the things that are gonna be advertised in the next 2 months. So, I mean, we need to start deciding what, when, and where before staff sits up here upstairs and says, we're gonna push the engineers and we're gonna go advertise it. Because frankly, where's the money gonna come from?
That's part of the things we will say expected. We don't.
Yeah,
pin
but
it
I'm just
down
saying, yeah, but I'm looking at last month's thing, there was 3 or 4 between last month and today that were supposed to be, I don't know if they were or not. I'm just saying that, in my opinion, we ought to have some discussion about what, when, and where it goes to advertisement before we just jump out thinking
Let
we're all
me-
fine and good.
Let me ask you this, because I hear you on that. I know these particular projects, and obviously the one above is, you know, kind of delayed.
I'm not-
But we've been talking about these.
I'm not particularly,
Yeah.
excuse me, Mayor, I'm not picking on these two. I'm just saying, that's the first time it's shown up in today's meeting. There's several more as we go through the schedule. I think that's what we ought to be talking about. These have been delayed. Maybe it ought to be ahead of that. Maybe it ought to be ahead of that.
Yeah.
That discussion, I think, needs to be had, is rather than just,
Well, I think we're gonna, you know, while I don't want to get into the weeds for that special meeting, there needs to be some type of recognition of the things that are anticipated, that have been stated they're anticipated to be advertised, so that we know what we're working with, right?
yeah.
Well, the advertisement, Mayor, excuse me.
Yes.
I don't know if, Pete, you understand the LPA process. We have nothing to do with the selection of the bid. When they submit the PSNE, the final plans to MDOT, they review it, and then they send it to the Federal Highway for advertising date. Once they approve that, then we'll decide when we advertise. But there's a process, we can't, that's why we can't pin it down to when, we just give you an estimate, say, we shoot it on April 15th, but we don't know if it's April 15th, could be March 30th, could be May 1st, so we just don't know.
I understand that, but we're also talking about a bunch that aren't MPO projects that have advertising based on. I'm just saying we need to have some thought going into that process. Because contractors aren't gonna be happy if they go out and turn in bids and we say we ain't got the money.
Mayor,
Yes.
is there an estimate on cost on every single one of these projects for our part? I mean, that'd be something else to have
That'd be-
on this
we
presentation.
have.
It would be great to have
I'll
that.
add it for next.
That would be awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
We did it.
But now, the Woodrow Wilson too, right now, we know it's 6 million as it's designed.
The
But it'll
Suel, Suel?
Yes, the
Yeah,
SOL.
that's about, yeah, about $6 million.
Would it be less or more after redesign?
Oh, will be more.
I mean, if we,
Because you have.
just a
inlet-
layperson, right? But if we're using 12 feet of asphalt versus 11, don't we
Yeah.
save on
No, no,
asphalt?
but you have an inlet change.
That's right.
You have-
For the
you have-
curb.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
storm
curb,
sewers and
so you
all
have
that.
other
That's
sewer,
right.
you know.
Maybe a low person.
No, not much, but still
Yeah.
change.
But there gotta be some offset.
Really, really
Right?
awesome.
No,
There's
because
a,
now we're gonna put in a 5-foot sidewalk instead of that asphalt.
yeah.
Yeah, but again, yeah, you get 5 feet of asphalt with the thickness and about a mile, you will save a lot of money. Yeah, so-
But you would
so
know
can save.
once you update your quantity.
Yeah, but once you update your quantity, you will know.
Okay.
You could know pretty well.
But has Michael Baker given any estimate on what's going on?
We waited on them too. Once they finish the update, they will give us an estimate.
Okay.
It's in your hands, trying to.
The next slide, the McDowell Road extension, this is on time. Everything is working fine, and we're supposed to submit it this week or next week to MDOT, and once they approve it, again, we will advertise for it. State Street, the same thing, Southern Consulting, they have, they working, supposed to submit the PSNE.
Any estimate on any of these?
Uh,
McDowell Road, we asked last month, she was gonna get us an estimate.
We have an estimate, yeah, I can bring it, I can, you know.
He shared.
I can email it to
He was
you.
gonna have it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, she last month, when we asked her about McDowell Road, she was here and asked her if she
Well,
had.
yeah, well, I think what he's communicating is she gave him one.
He
He
just
just
had
didn't put it in
I
the
just need to
document.
put it here, for next meeting, I'll put all the.
So she did what she said she was gonna do. We
Okay,
just don't have it.
I do have,
just-
yeah, we do have this. We do have this.
You know, I think we're a little delayed on the expected date of this because, you know, 205, is that BC?
That's
or
B-
is
AC.
that- No, I'm joking.
Oh,
He's not seeing it.
No.
You're good, don't worry about it.
You're good, it's not a big deal, don't worry about it.
The Officer Thomas
It's a typo.
Kitchen Bridge.
It's just a little typo.
It's going to be advertised on the hearing, I don't get me a date. Okay, so we gotta get a date for advertised for the Thomas Kitchen Bridge.
In mind,
Yes, sir.
for the benefit of not only this board and decisions we make in the future, but the council also requested this. Can we get a comprehensive list of the bridges, and I know we've had it in the past, but the bridges that have been identified as, you know, needing to be worked on or having
Sure.
been shut down already, if we can just have that comprehensive.
Yep. Okay. Next one.
Hey, what is the South State? What is that? Is that just an
South
overlay?
State, that's overlay.
Crazy.
It'd be a
It's going to
overlay, no capital down the railroad.
Yeah, it's over.
Picking up where the CCID is there.
Great, thank you.
The Monument Bridge is the seventh, I was hoping he would be here, but civil tech consultant. They just recently submitted last week submitted the review. And I'm worried about this project, to be honest with you, because the deadline is August, and they're dragging their feet. So it took them about a year to submit a 30% plan, and that's not acceptable. I convey that message to consultant. So this is not how it works. But I still have faith that we can meet the deadline, because they still have about 6 months, if they crank it up and start producing. They submit their plans last week, and the plan is not acceptable. So we sent back to them from MDOT to redo it. And let's just hope for the best. Beasley Road and Highland, this is the signal project that everything is going fine, except we have the right-of-way issue.
So when I write all those, that's them just identifying utility and gas lines and everything else. But I noticed that they've you know, even gone off of Beasley up, what's the entrance?
It's
So
Highland.
then, the entrance to, is that North Colony Drive?
Between the two apartments.
Well,
Floral.
yeah, it's even on
Floral.
Floral Drive, which is the street over. How?
That's behind. I mean, we don't get to that street before you get to it.
Yeah, I know that's my understanding, but the identification of all the utility lines.
That's because the county got money from the state to redo Beasley Road all the way to Hanging Box. They're probably marking that for what the county's gonna be doing on Beasley.
No,
Road.
this is a street over. It's not even on Beasley Road.
Okay,
It's that,
okay.
not,
Yeah.
I'm just, it was strange to me. So I wasn't certain if this was related to our project.
No.
Because I saw those lines going all the way to the next street. That's why I was confused. on
We
the
have
status.
two boxes that gas and AT&T, and they are relocated.
They're doing other
Yeah,
work.
they want to,
Okay, okay.
nothing to do with the project. Next. And these are the bridges that need to be replaced, the Smallwood, is that what you're talking about, man?
Yeah, but I want a comprehensive,
Yeah.
not the ones that we're working on here. I just want a comprehensive list, so that we will just have an understanding of what's ahead of us.
Okay. Smallwood, the county was supposed to do this, but they decided not to do
The
it.
county did not decide not to do it. The county was told by Mr. Wright that the city wanted to do it, and that they were gonna do it and already had the money. And so they had advertised the bids and had a bid, and were prepared to go forward with it until Mr. Wright told them that we were gonna do it. Because Mr. Griselle wants us to do Smallwood and Shaw.
Let me straighten something out.
Yeah, well, yeah. They're,
Get into this.
what I mean
That's
by
what the
that.
man sent me by text, they said.
Okay, so with Mr. Wright sitting right, a
mere.
mere inches,
I hear you.
right? Then we can just ask the question,
Okay.
what was the communication, right?
There was never communication between me and the county regarding the city doing Smallwood. The county said they wanted to do it, and we did the drawing, the design work, and we delivered the
I
drawings to
delivered
the
my
county
hand.
to do it.
And they took bids of it.
And they took bids on it. The county voted in a session not to do that bridge.
No, sir, the county, not Shaw, they.
Let me,
Okay,
Mr.
go ahead,
Madam
go ahead,
finish.
okay, go
That
ahead.
they voted not to do
Which session?
any bridges, Smallwood as well as,
Showbridge,
uh,
Alice and Showbridge.
no, the other one that Mr. Norman always called Mr. Shaw Road.
Shaw Road.
Shaw Road, yeah.
You say the county voted not to do them.
It was You can look at their minutes from the last meeting. Commissioner
Somebody made the
Supervisor
motion.
Smith, Tony Supervisor Smith, yeah, put a motion in, and they all voted on it.
Because, according to Matt, who sent me a text, you told Dexter we were gonna do it. And that's why that. What's your phone?
Listen, once again,
Or you should me or him on.
we're gonna be respectful.
I understand.
If he says that he didn't say that, then, you know,
I
first of
think-
all, I wouldn't charge anybody in this room with lying, especially opposite. But if there is a person in this room that he's a deacon, for goodness sake, right? Like, he's something like a deacon, right? Something like a deacon, right? I'd be hard pressed to charge him with you know, telling a mistruth.
Can I
right?
follow up on this?
Yeah.
I talked to Dexter at the NPO meeting, and I said, what happened to that, why they rejected? He told me, he said, same thing like Pete said, that Mr. Wright said, you know, we gotta do it. I came straight to Lewis and asked him, I said, did you really tell them? There's no way you can tell them. He said, no, I didn't tell them anything. So there's some conversation behind the scene, we don't know really the details.
And people sometimes misunderstand things. I've been told that I'm
I think
telling.
we ought to put Smallwood and Shaw on the table for a while and see, because at the Willowwood meeting, Mr. Grizel's down there saying the city's gonna do, I got the city to do Shaw and Smallwood, and at the sub meeting he did, at the same time that the county pulled it off. If we're gonna interject who's gonna do it or what, when the county had already taken bids on it and was prepared to do Smallwood for $700,000, if, I'm trying to find the text.
Let's make sure because this is what I would be very confused and hard pressed. I don't know why we would ever make a decision as a city that we gonna choose to spend money when somebody else is gonna do it. And the pattern and practice that I've always gotten from Mr. Wright, anytime some type of question like that comes up, he calls me to ask me what my thoughts are, right?
I'm not at all surprised, and I agree with that and understand. I'm just saying, what the county is saying is different from what we're saying in here. And because there's a difference between what the county and the people of the county are telling me and what Matt from the city told me that the county told him, I've got to go with that too.
Well, we
So-
understand that there's a difference in opinion, right? Or there's different communication as to what was said, right? I for one am 100% going with Lewis Wright, right? I have the benefit of his character and everything else. Now, we will get to the bottom.
And I don't
Because we
think-
can go back and forth, we'll get to the
And I
bottom.
don't think it matters, you know, who said what, when, or where. I think the question is about the bridges. And at this point, with the bridges, I think we need to figure out what the county is willing to do, not willing to do. If the county knew that we weren't doing it, they were doing Smallwood. They had bids on ready to issue a contract. For some reason, they pulled it down. Now, why they pulled it down, I can't answer. I can tell you what they said they did. And that's why, and Shaw has never been voted on. Shaw was put up, Ms. Evers wasn't there, they wanted to sell, so they didn't vote on Shaw. Now, they might have voted on it since then. I go look at the minutes if that was at the meeting, the last meeting, but the meeting before, they were. But if they, but if they're voting on not doing it because we're gonna do them, they voted to do them when we were willing to let them do them. I think there's some ways that this can be negotiated so we don't spend $1 million of our money that the county's willing to spend.
I'll be happy to read to you the email from Dexter.
I'm looking for the email.
He
You
said
gotta
we have-
realize
we don't
that's
have
the
time to do
worst
that, but he
part.
said
I
that to
think
us.
that's where confusion is coming in.
But
The supervisor, that's the
What's
worst.
her name?
I'm gonna leave it like that.
No, Dexter is the public works director for the city, for the county.
there is no mention of Mr. Lyon.
There are 5 people who work for her,
Yeah.
Okay.
and they all
Let me say
different.
this, let me say this.
They are.
We'll gain some understanding for the next meeting. I continue with your,
I think that's what we ought to do, just move forward with it, look at it, yeah.
So Alice, the same thing, Alice is completed and it's ready to go. And we recommend that it be replaced. And I took a picture here of the, because Mr. T said
We
there's
lose a-
2 houses or 3
Did we
houses.
lose a quorum? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay.
You about to lose one, huh? Or-
Okay.
We almost done, we almost done.
Okay.
And you can count them, there are about 13 houses on that.
No, the bridge is right there.
Yeah, it's on a different one.
Right
The
there,
bridge is right there.
To the right.
That house, just below the arrow, is abandoned and boarded up.
to the right, right there, that's the bridge.
There's a bridge, and just below that house is abandoned, boarded up. There's a barn right above it, okay, there are 3 houses up on this end. It would be a dead-end street without that bridge. I live on a dead-end street, kinda like it, frankly. There's a dead-end street just north of there. See if you can go up on that map.
The
That's
house,
not, this isn't.
It's a
That's
street.
the
This is-
Right.
the house below it is, there's people living.
Well, if you come down over here on the right, that road that's going up this way at an angle, there's a street that comes down, it dead ends on the north side of the creek. 7 houses don't get over the dead end street. This one could be a dead end street. My question is that bridge a priority to replace with everything else we need when these people to get out have a much shorter route going out to the left than to do the right anyway? Having a dead end street is not, I frankly like being on a dead end street. And there's another one, would they rather have that $354,000 spent on paving these roads over here or replacing that bridge? That's a priority question. So that's-
Yeah, I don't know at this moment. I hear your recommendation.
Well,
but
from a structural point of view, the bridge needs to be replaced regardless.
Why can it not be abandoned? Not every bridge that's closed needs to be replaced. That's been, we had Green Tree Road, we had Greenwood.
For the sake of time,
Okay, but
nobody's asking for a decision on this today.
Okay, but we had Greenwood Bridge that we finally decided didn't need to be replaced because it wasn't being used. Belmont Bridge, just because it was built 50 years ago, and at that time it might have made sense, we need to look at it and see if it's a priority. We're not making a decision right now.
I wouldn't even ask as a priority. I think the question should be, can you abandon a bridge? And if you can, then it makes the decision pretty easy.
Yeah.
So can we just get that answer to that question?
We
Well,
can't-
not today.
What do you
It's
mean,
not-
can you?
Can we legally abandon
What's
the
that,
bridge?
Does the city have authority to abandon a bridge?
I don't know, that's the question.
No,
Yeah.
They do. You're saying they do.
It's city right away.
There-
It's a city maintained
All right.
infrastructure. I mean, I'm not,
There's no obligation.
whether it should be or not is not, but the
Right,
city
that's
has
a different
authority
question.
to, just to
Yeah.
answer that question.
Perfect.
I am gonna go, I promise I'm gonna have an early dinner with my wife, right? So we're not gonna keep this going.
You gonna talk about this bridge?
Yeah.
Beasley Road and the opening bid will be by the end of this month. So we'll know. Showbridge again, we talked about it. So I don't know what the decision will be. on that. This is an old, it's been closed for 5-6 years, I think.
And that
We need to be, because there's a lot of people there living there. So.
Yes, sir, it's been closed for 5 or 6 years. And in 2022, December 2021 was the first time it appeared on our calendar. It appeared on our calendar 6 months in a row without any request for action. At the end of 2022, Robert Lee asked us for money to fund the engineering. 9 months later, the council offered a contract for it, for the engineering. So if it's been closed for 5 years, we went 3 years without it ever being discussed. So why the rush then? And why the rush to get the contract to the engineers? So the rush now because it's been closed for 5 years, it wasn't a rush for the first 3.5 because nobody ever talked about it.
Is there actually a bid opening on 225? When you say expected, does that mean that we're
That's about
accepting
the
So
bids?
that's Beasley, that's Beasley.
I was talking about
That's
the Charter
okay.
Road.
Well, I know, I just want to clarify, on
Yeah,
Beasley
we will
Bridge,
have- we will have
there
it.
is a bid opening on
Yeah,
225?
25, yeah.
Okay.
And I will ask again, don't give that heading on it. It is a Beasley Road project, it is a Shaw Road project, it's not connected with the projects.
Well, it's just showing the.
I know.
the alternate,
Wait a minute.
both of them.
Okay.
Then we break it down.
Listen.
But we move on.
We're not gonna major in the minor right now. I get the clarity.
But we had this discussion before,
You know how much I remember it? I think I was the one that made the
I think
recommendation.
you were.
Okay, so
And
I get it.
And they did, but they did the previous slide, they fixed it.
Okay.
We got 1 out of 2.
All right, well, I'm gonna give a little passes right now because I want to get through this report.
The Country Club, it's ongoing and everything is on schedule. The Swan Lake Bridge, Hanfield was selected the contractor. they have not started the construction because of the power poles. They are working with Entergy to move
What
a
is,
couple of them.
what is the power pole issue?
I'm
It's on the right, it's on the right of ways. I don't know why, the issue with them. But once they move it, he told me, I talked to Hempfield myself. And
Is there any?
Yeah,
is
that's
there-
what,
There's a progress, they move it.
that's what I was gonna ask. Is there an issue with power poles, energy getting out there and moving, and so we're getting the problem?
Yeah, well, my question is related to that, but do we have right-of-way issues? Like
No,
in
no,
terms-
I mean, Hempfield is trying to clear that with Entergy. It's not the city. So they can start the construction. There's some issue in there with.
Okay, I just,
There's a
It's
real
not weird,
small.
not-
I'm, you know, trigger shy, or I've been beat up on the Capitol Street, right? We've been trying to move
Yeah.
power lines on Capitol Street forever, so I just wanna know if that's an issue that we're.
No, he said it's clearing up. He said he's already got them on the field. They already talked about it, and they in the process of
Okay.
moving it. So this
Okay.
is not, I don't think it's an issue. It's a matter of time when they're gonna start
Mhm.
construction. Again, Martin Luther King Bridge, Civil Tech, everything is late on that project, so I don't know what, I was hoping again, that he'd be here to tell us why is the delay.
So that means the bid opening will not be on March 4th?
No,
Okay.
and he has not submitted to anything to us for the
Okay.
bid, so. And then, like I said, it was late, everything is delayed.
That's fine. I just,
Next. The Northwest Industrial Park. There was the bidder was selected, AG Construction, and the amount is 1.635,712. And I don't know if we need to obligate that money or, I guess we have to, I don't know, do the obligation. 1% of the city.
That sounds like, I thought last month they were gonna come give us a brief description of what they were gonna do with that project. We had a discussion with them about what all they included and move on. I mean, I was just curious about what all they included. Because they actually combined two different projects.
This is an overlay and.
I know, but somebody combined, Robert Lee, I think, combined Beasley Road and added to the Northwest Industrial Park. And the question was, what all are we doing in the industrial park? Because when we first talked about that, there was some issues about what to do.
I know from a planning and development standpoint that there were some businesses over there
We need to do it,
that were concerned, and
here's what I remember about it. Yeah, I mean, 2 or 3 of the business was concerned because the road, as you go in, it circles around, it goes up, and this one kind of goes, and then there's a loop that comes around, I believe, on the west side, and nobody's on that side. There's trash piled up on it, limbs piled up on it, and the road's in really rough shape, and there's no businesses over there. So the question was whether we were doing that loop or kind of not doing that loop until somebody moved in over there, because the main road where Coca-Cola and 2 or 3 of the other big ones were, was where the road was bad and they had a lot of traffic. So,
do you know precisely what's happening in that particular project?
You know, just a simple overlay and mill and overlay.
how much are we
That's all I
overlaying? What are we overlaying?
Mill and overlay, simple.
The entire, he asked, are we doing the entire,
Industrial park?
Industrial park.
the entire one? Okay.
We weren't supposed to be doing the loop on the west side, that's what I wanted to do. That was what, I'm going back. I'm going back.
I'm not-
Thank you. The meeting has now ended.
Civil Tech.
see, guys.
So I'm not debating.
I think you've been overruled
Yeah,
here.
I'm not debating.
This was Robert Lee's discussion.
Yeah, I just don't recall. That's,
Could you find out?
I will find out.
Yes.
I can find out.
I think that's simple, yeah, Elmo was here.
If he answers.
yeah, I'm not disagreeing, I just don't recall, I don't know.
Has the contract been signed? Like, has this actually been contracted and?
Yeah, it's
It
going.
has not been contracted, no. If it's been contracted, then we don't have anything to do with it, because we don't have any money. If it's been
Well,
contracted,
we got the bids and we got the lower
has it
bids.
been contracted, is his question.
Well, I'm just asking, like, have we actually signed a contract and?
No.
Are we at?
Not yet. We just had the bid.
I'm just asking for a status on the contract, like,
Yeah, no,
hey,
No,
we got
we-
bids from AJ, but it has not actually
No,
gone
no,
to
no,
the...
we have not had the contract yet.
Okay.
We just, like I said, this is recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the last meeting, we asked Elmore to tell us, when I was there, he was gonna bring it to this meeting and tell us what was in it. Evidently, it didn't matter about telling us, so go ahead and did it, and we're wherever we are.
I was hoping you'd be here, so.
Yeah, but it would still be after the bid rather than before. On some kind of major project like that, sometimes it'd be nice to kind of know what's going on.
I don't think we're not asking for action.
Are we taking any action on that thing?
That's it.
Nathan, have a good day.
Thank you.
Old Canton is going as planned. Gallatin is late.
Thank you.
So I'm not, okay, especially because he's not here again. I was going to ask him, what's the deal, what the reasons for the delay is. He was supposed to submit that 2 weeks ago to us, the plans he never did. So everything is late on this project.
Is that, all of these
As
are
far as
civil
the
tech?
design, as far as the design.
These are all civil tech?
Yeah. Capital Street, again, we are supposed to meet with the consulting, because Imad is out of the country, so we can't meet with the city water until the 25th of this month. So we'll find out then. We can save some money by reducing, removing the signals, turn them into, turn them into roundabouts. And if the city will help us with funding, that will reduce the amount from $15 million to $10 million.
Mr. Perry?
On your IMS list of bond projects, the west half of that is on their list, something like from Prentice down to Rose, which that's, we started with the list being from Gallatin to, is it Rose where the 5-point intersection is, where mid comes up in there? Where mid comes up, yeah, that was what we were first looking at, was doing that and making it two-way. Somehow our project jumped into going all the way to Gallatin to Prentice. But I did see on the list of bond projects, the city, speaking on the other side of the city, was doing from, what's the next past roads? Somewhere right in there, down to Prentice on that list of mine. Now that's clearly just a milling overlay because there's no traffic signals and stuff like that in there. That'll be a little coordination going on. And I did point that out to the INS people and to Bad that, we got a discussion.
If we could just note that, and how that impacts our decision in our meeting next week, then is that?
No, that for next week, that doesn't affect us at all.
Okay.
I'm just talking about the long term. This is not a 6-month project right here for us to deal with anyway.
Okay.
The amount of money. I'm just saying that there's a possibility that Prentice to Rose might be being done outside of us.
Well, not outside of me, but yeah.
No, well,
Yeah.
Not outside of us, not outside of everybody else.
Yes.
Okay.
So we
Yes.
successfully removed the city from the non-compliance list from the MPO and LTA, and we activated the city project. That's a $5 million project. 2 bridges and 1 overlay. We're in the process of selecting the consulting for the design, and hopefully we'll move forward with that. We just need to remember that to obligate the money for the people, the consultants.
On behalf of Ms. I move to adjourn.
Well, thank you. I'm sure she would appreciate that.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor? Opposed?
That might be on behalf of you, so that you won't get in trouble.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got